everybody's, very busy and schedules are never in a way that we've got a lot of time to just sit down and talk things through. So having a clear, open line of communication that's in an organized fashion internally has really helped us keep things running smoothly so that we can identify issues and address them before they become problems.
Business of Architecture, episode 174. Hello, I'm Enoch Sears, and this is the podcast for architects, where you'll discover tips, strategies, and secrets for running a profitable and impactful architecture practice. I'd like to invite you to discover how to double your architecture firm income and create your dream practice of freedom and impact by downloading my free 4-part architecture firm profit map. As a podcast listener, you can get instant access by going to freearchitectgift.com. Today we talk with Eric Behr. Eric is a principal at AB Design Studio based out of Santa Barbara, California, and he is the Director of Studio Operations. Today is the second half of my interview with Eric Behr. Eric Behr is the Director of Studio Operations at AB Design Studio, an architecture firm based out of Santa Barbara, California. Now, let's get down to business. Fantastic. You say you have something called the AB handbook. What's the name of your process?
Yeah, that's what we've been calling it. It's an ongoing work in process, but yeah, that's what we're creating in terms of AB handbook or an AB playbook. Sort of the rules of the game that identify, in written format how we do what we do, so that it can be clearly distributed to the team. And
tell me the nuts and bolts. I'd like to dive into the nuts and bolts of what that is. What format of file are you using to do that? Tell me how you guys create that document, make it effective, and implement it. Let's have a chat about that.
Sure. Yeah. Right now, as I said, it's a work in progress. So we have a lot of pieces in a lot of different formats. And what we're working on right now is consolidating it into basically a cloud format where we're using a software where it would be inherently saved in this and on the cloud in this software so that it's easily accessible with search commands.
What software is it?
It's called Bitrix 24, actually. It's an online platform. And so right now, most of our how-tos are in the format of Word documents and Excel spreadsheets. We use a program called AIM, which is Architectural Information Management, which is a major tool in our toolbox for managing our projects. We've got a lot of information saved in this program as well, and so we're working on consolidating all that into a more concise, single platform that's more easily accessible. But it contains things from how we do our draft invoices to, like I said, how we, our 3D rendering styles and our drawing standards to how we type an update letter to the client or how we request schematic design sign off, things of that nature that allows us to give the project manager the tools that they need to execute a project without having to figure that stuff out on the fly.
Fantastic. How do you help make sure that, so this is being, like you said, it's a work in progress. We all know that this stuff takes time and it'll probably continue to develop. So you're taking these disparate pieces right now, you're putting them onto this Bitrix 24 cloud-based platform, right? Now, what procedures do you have to help make sure that people implement things? Because I know that one of the challenges of having really good processes is that people, if they're not monitored, people will just kind of result to doing whatever they know how to do, and they'll kind of, they won't get updated. Do you guys have any systems in place to make sure that you're constantly updating those things and people are using them?
We do, yes. One of the major accountabilities once I took on the promotion to the level I'm at was, again, this AIM program, Architectural Information Management, is the program that we use to really track our project progress. And like you said, monitor all of our projects and our staff so that we can be sure that things are going as they need to go. And I've created a lot of custom reporting through this software that'll alert us when projects are nearing the contracted fee, or exceeding the fee, so that we can be alerted on an ongoing basis if projects are in jeopardy of needing more fee. We run a Monday meeting every Monday morning that I run with the entire staff, where we go through each project in the office, and the project managers report a quick update on where things are at in terms of scope, schedule, and budget. And we use that as a check-in to identify that the projects are going through the right processes and that all the right steps are being taken. And then we identify projects that potentially may need, like I said earlier, kind of a focused discussion where we'll identify those projects, put them on an agenda, and we'll get them out on the table with the firm owners to make sure that they're getting the attention they need. So we use that weekly project, we call it a work in progress, a WIP meeting, to check in on all the projects and make sure they're going the direction they need to.
What do you feel is the key to keeping projects on schedule? Are these ones that start to get off track? What do you feel are some of the things that you bring in and you say, okay, this is the first thing we're going to look at doing here?
Yeah, I think the key is really, projects are all about having a managed process. We estimate to the clients how long something's going to take and how much it's going to cost, but it's always a moving target. And so the key to having a project get completed on schedule is managing that schedule throughout the process. So rarely will a project end and get wrapped up on the date that we initially estimated. Sometimes it's sooner, sometimes it's later. But as that target moves, the key is staying in communication and managing that with the client so that their expectations are adjusting as the process adjusts. Same with the costs. We think we estimate as best we can how much effort something might take at the beginning of the process, and as you well know, I'm sure those things change throughout the process of a project. And so managing that on an ongoing basis, whereas the scope changes, we're in communication with the client about how that affects our time and our fees. So that is, in kind of a broad sense, in terms of managing that within the office. We're looking at, that's another part of the weekend, the work in progress meeting each week, is looking at what are our deadlines, what are our projects that are needing attention on a weekly basis, and how do we overlap them all so that all of the demands are getting met. And that's a group effort where we get organized each Monday around who needs who for help, and we get organized around which deadlines we should prioritize, and then again we communicate that to the client and set their expectations. So if something needs to push a little bit because we've got something else to work on, we're making sure that we're looking at that globally and managing that ongoingly and communicating that back to each of our clients.
So it sounds like your firm strikes me as one which has invested time and effort in getting these systems set up and investing in itself, shall we say.
Right.
What would you say would be some of the key things that you really think help things run smoothly around there? You mentioned your Monday morning meetings. You mentioned some of the software tools you have. What else?
I think a big thing is focusing on communication. We've been, there's so many different tools at our disposal now for communicating, right? There's emails, there's text messages, there's phone calls, there's all these different apps. And so we've been exploring how best to have a system in place for internal communications. And I think we've landed on some tools that have been pretty successful for us, and that's really helped just so that we're all staying on the same page. Everybody's very busy, and schedules are never in a way that we've got a lot of time to just sit down and talk things through. So having a clear, open line of communication that's in an organized fashion internally has really helped us keep things running smoothly so that we can identify issues and address them before they become problems. That's been important. Outside of that, I think it's mostly the things I've already mentioned in terms of just having clear processes and procedures for how we do things, and then getting organized as a group around everything that needs to get done and making sure that we're working together. I think one thing that we've really tried to emphasize is that each one of our projects isn't someone's project. It's the office's project. And so we really emphasize the collaborative environment. So we don't have one project manager working 60 hours one week to try to get 3 projects done, while another project manager might have a light workload that week, working his standard 8-hour day. So if somebody's over there with a little bit more to do that week, we're making sure that we're all pitching in to help them get their work done, so that as an office we're staying, balanced. So again, collaborative environment. We're not putting anything too much on one individual and putting them on little islands. We try to avoid, the sort of the cyclone effect of having very separated departments and people. So we've got everybody out in one big space, one big room where we can all hear what's going on and see what everybody's doing, and really emphasizing that team environment so that we're all pitching in to help each other out.
What financial information does the firm leadership share with the employees and staff?
Another great question, because again, I've only worked in a couple of firms, and so I don't have a real firm understanding of what other firms are like. But we at AB Design Studio are a very open book, especially when it comes to the financial part of our projects. And so, each project has fees that we're contracted for, and then we track our fees that we're using on an ongoing basis, and we're very open with all of that. So we've got software, again, this AIM program that allows us to track, on a day-to-day basis where we're at in terms of our financial situation on our projects, and we're publishing that to the entire office. So everybody's very clear. For example, we may have $20,000 to use in schematic design, and we're working through a design exercise. Everybody in the office is very clear that where we're at. So maybe we've already used $10,000 and we have $10,000 left to complete the exercise. That's something that we're making sure is well known to the entire team every time we're meeting on that project. So we ask our project managers to run all their own invoicing each month on all of their projects. So again, pretty open book in that regard, where we're asking them to review the time that's been put on the project and put forth an invoice that will go to the client to bill for those services. So it seems, having, again, staff members that have been added to the team that have a lot of experience working elsewhere, it seems to be much more transparent than what they're used to here at AB Design Studio.
Are salaries transparent?
Salaries are transparent at the executive level. So myself and probably our administrative staff are all aware of those numbers, as well as the firm owners, of course. It's not something we openly disclose with our architectural staff members on an ongoing basis. Right.
Okay. And so salaries is kept, that's not necessarily shared with the whole firm. However, project fees, project budgets, you're saying there's a great effort to make sure that everyone understands that information.
Correct.
Okay. And it's a common when you're a young staff member in architecture, even if you've been at a firm for a while and you don't understand the overhead that goes into running a practice, it's easy to look at those large numbers and saying, wow, they're billing me out at $160 an hour, and here I am earning $25 an hour. Wow, someone's making a killing off of this. How do you counter that mindset in your culture, or do you?
Yeah, we do. We've actually created one of the custom reports I've helped create. We call the staff net revenue, and it basically breaks down each person's contribution in terms of how much money they're bringing in on a monthly basis based on their individual efforts and how much of their time gets billed out each month. And then that is directly compared to how much they're costing the company with overhead factored in along with their salary. And then you see the difference. You're seeing if they individually were a profitable situation each month, or if they, were a loss basically for the company. And so we run that report every month, and we publish that to each of the staff members. And we have an all hands on deck meeting each month where we actually kind of go through those numbers along with some other key performance indicators, and we reward the top performers each month, sort of in a group meeting, and give out funny little prizes and things like that. And so I think that report helps set the context for each staff member in terms of, like you said, the overhead, and put in context the fact that they're not, that $100 difference between their billing rate and their hourly compensation isn't going straight into the owner's pockets.
Yeah. Now this it sounds like a powerful software that you're using right now. I tried to look it up. Is this something that's available? I think there's AIM, Architecture Information Manager, and the website is Architectronica.
That's the one, yeah.
Okay, great. How you guys? It sounds like you're happy with this program. You're continuing to invest in it in terms of, and it sounds like it has some pretty powerful reports that you're using.
Yeah, it's one of the most major softwares that we use to run our company, and it's a software that Josh and Clay helped develop early on. The creator of the software, Barry Isaacson, was working with Josh and Clay when they were at their previous company before they left and started AB Design Studio. And I think I think the firm they were working with then were one of the first firms that were working with this software. So Josh and Clay, having been at an executive level at that firm, were largely involved in shaping the software and forming it into a way that it was customizable to how they wanted to run their company. And so I've kind of stepped in to help continue to evolve the software. I work directly with the software creator to make custom reports and to tweak it to do things that we want to do. And we use it for pretty much everything in terms of it's our contacts database, it's our time card, it's our documents software. Instead of Microsoft Word, we use this program. And then we manage our project budgets and our project projections and our overall kind of staffing matrix and workload all within this one software. And so, it's been a major tool for us.
So you mentioned the net revenue per employee, which I think is a great number to look at, especially to kind of create that culture of, hey, let's gamify this, let's compete, let's see if we can up that number for you individually, kind of make some additional accountability. What other KPIs, just off the top of your head, what are some of the other major KPIs that you're constantly monitoring?
Yeah, so I mentioned staff net revenue. Another individual employee-based KPI is staff utilization rate, which is it's similar to staff net revenue, but it's how much of their time is being spent towards billable activities versus non-billable activities. And so that's a percentage. We have a group target as a staff.
What's your target?
75% as a group.
That's pretty up on the higher side of normal. Yep.
Yeah. That's great. We've been tracking well and hitting that number or coming pretty close most of this year. The staff net revenue we track individually as well as a group. We have a group goal of 65%. Which is how much time gets actually invoiced versus just being, potentially billable. So that target is 65% as a group. Individual targets, we put more around 80% for each person to try to have a target to aim for. The other big KPI we monitor each month is simply our fee revenue, how much fees we're billing. We have a target for that we're tracking against each month. And have sort of some games set up with the staff to rewards in place when we hit that and so forth. So
tell me about fee revenue, because that is one thing that's a little bit more backwards looking. I mean, the fee you're charging today kind of results from the inputs that happened in the past. How do you gamify the fee revenue? How does that work?
So we, as part of our AIM software, we project our efforts on each project on a monthly basis. So the first day of the month, we sit down with a clean slate and we basically put in what we call work plans for each project, which states what the goals are for the month, what we're trying to get done, who's going to be working on it. We start inputting how many hours we anticipate each staff member to spend throughout the month on that project, and then that gets calculated into a projected fee for the month. So we set that up in the first week of the month as sort of what we think we can do. I then we can run reports that total all those projects up into a total projected revenue. I can then print off that report and I'll meet with the firm owners and we'll go through it carefully and we'll look for opportunities to potentially increase our projections. We'll look for either projects that may start up that aren't in there yet, or projects we think that could move faster and further, or projects that potentially we need to slow play a little bit so that we can focus on other projects that would lead to a higher billing situation. So I then review that with the owners, and it's sort of a back and forth between me and the owners and me and the rest of the staff in terms of shaping a projected scenario that has us hitting our goal. And then once that is on paper, it gives us a roadmap to go execute. And so then we spend the rest of the month trying to execute on the plan that's in place that has us invoicing at the end of the month in a spot that has us at the goal that we've set. So that allows us to be somewhat forward-looking in that regard.
Great. So you talked about your staff net revenue. Where do you hit in terms of just average your staff net revenue? Where are you guys at?
In terms of a percentage?
No, just in terms of a revenue number, in terms of dollar amount.
Our goal each month is $250,000. At least it has been for about the last year. We've sort of plateaued. We tried to stabilize the number of staff we have, and so we've been keeping our goal around $250,000 a month. I'd say if
is that okay? So per month, so that's
$3 million a year.
Yeah. So you're saying that would be all gross revenue combined, is what you're saying there.
That's just our fees. So that's
Right.
without, reimbursable expenses, premium plotting, that sort of thing.
Yep. Yep. What I thought, so going to the staff net revenue number, are you tracking, and it sounds like you are, exactly that number of, like, if Enoch works at your firm, how much did Enoch bring in this month?
Yep.
Or for the year? I know that generally architecture firms, if they're hitting $120,000 per employee, then they're doing a good job. Where are you guys at with that number?
I don't know if we've tracked it in terms of, an average per employee per year. That's interesting. I hadn't heard that way of looking at it before. It'd be something I'd look at. But we're looking at it on a monthly basis with individual employees, and it shifts based on their billing rate. So project managers, we're typically trying to get about $20,000 a month out of a project manager. Our job captain, project captain level was more like $15,000, and then our production staff kind of in that $9,000 to $12,000 range a month is the goals that we have in place, and sometimes, majority of them are hitting them each month, and some aren't. But it's dependent on which projects they're working on, of course, as well. So.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. I mean, I'm a numbers oriented guy in terms of when I was working for other architects, I always really like to have that number, that goal, so I could, because I'm very goal oriented. I like to see that I'm achieving something, right? I want to feel valuable.
Right.
I want to know that I'm contributing. So I think that's very empowering for your employees and your staff there at the office to be able to say, okay, look, the benchmark for a project manager or whatever is $20,000 a month. That may look like a lot of money. You may be getting paid less than that, but look, we have overhead in here. But if you really want to excel, see if you can get that number higher than that. And that's one way that you can measure your own performance. That's very, very, very cool.
Yeah, it's a neat report. It's a neat way of looking at it. Like you said, set them a goal. They can see if they hit it, and then they see, if a staff member did $22,000, they can compare that against what their burden is on the office and see how much, net profit they're bringing in as part of their contribution. And that's, an exciting thing for someone to be seeing, and it's a rewarding feeling to know, you're a profitable situation for the office. So.
Yep. And it sounds like you guys might be at about that mid six figures range per employee, because just based upon the ranges you gave me, $20,000 a month would be $240,000 a year. But those are your higher paid, architectural staff. And then you said on the lower end, you have, there's about 9,000. So somewhere in the middle there, sounds like you guys are probably around the $200,000 in terms of a goal for the year. Does that sound about right? It
does, yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, Eric, thanks for coming on today. It's been a fabulous conversation. Really like to hear what you're doing there at AB Design Studio. We talked some about the bookkeeping, accounting, financial KPIs, which is awesome. I'm curious, since you are the operations manager of the studio lead, shall we say, what's the software that you guys are using right now just to produce your CDs? What's your workflow like?
We're using ArchiCAD. And we've actually transitioned to that recently. So my first 4 or 5 years at AB, we were AutoCAD and SketchUp based. We had a little bit of Revit, which we were trying to get to take hold in the office, but it was a struggle. And then at the beginning of this year, we made the decision to transition full force into ArchiCAD, which is huge in Europe. It's becoming more and more popular here in the United States. We're working with a company called Graphisoft to help us implement that into our company. I think they're up to 200 firms in the Southern California area in terms of companies they're working with on ArchiCAD. So it seems to be growing here in our backyard. And so it's, a BIM software similar to Revit, but we find it a little bit more designer friendly, a little less technical and a little less constraints and a little bit more freedom. And we love that it's directly related to Rhino and Grasshopper. So you can model something in Rhino, kick it into Grasshopper, and then bring it right back into ArchiCAD and use it for your construction documents. So we're still sort of in the learning curve of the software, but it's been pretty amazing for us so far. We're excited about it.
Very cool. Have you guys developed all your own custom templates for the software to get your studio up to speed, shall we say?
Yeah, we took our templates and standards that we use for our AutoCAD drawings, and we sort of applied them into ArchiCAD, and we're learning how to tweak those to make sure we're getting the most out of what ArchiCAD has to offer. And so that's a little bit of a work in progress as well, but we've got something in place that allows us to function and operate, and we're refining that. We've got regular ongoing support with some people at the Graphisoft company. So we've got a team of people that meet each week with one of their representatives to ask questions and troubleshoot and problem solve and continue to make sure we're refining our process. So that's been going pretty well.
All right. Eric, just to end up here, I'd love to hear from you personally. In what area of your life do you feel like you're growing right now? What person are you looking to for inspiration? Are there any books right now that you're kind of focused on? It could be something as simple as, hey man, I'm starting to mountain bike more, or, I'm taking a walk every day, getting some fresh air, or I'm developing a workout routine, kind of in your own personal life and your own personal growth. What's happening right now? What tips can you give us that might inspire us?
I think in my own personal life, right now I'm just focusing on being a good husband. I just got married less than a year ago, so that's been a big, not a big change, I wouldn't say, but just a big moment in my life. So that's been a major focus. After the wedding, I decided, after all that planning was done and everything was behind me, that I would begin my architecture exams. So I started that process last November, and about halfway through, I got four tests down. Planning on wrapping up the last 3 before the end of the year here, and then taking the California supplemental next spring. So that's been a big focus, trying to get that process complete and get licensed and be officially an architect, which is exciting. And then just enjoying, I moved out of here from Missouri, and I think, a big focus of mine is really just taking advantage of everything that California has to offer. I'm a big outdoorsman, and being able to experience the outdoors in a place like Santa Barbara 365 days a year is amazing. And so that's, a focus of mine as well, is making sure I take advantage of that. I'm taught myself how to surf and try to get out there before work a few days a week and get out into the mountains. I also recently bought a Sprinter van, and I'm converting that in. It's here in Santa Barbara, owning a house is a bit of a pipe dream at the moment. So yeah, so I decided to buy a van that I could customize and build, and that's kind of been my creative outlet in terms of my own personal project. I'm designing and building that into a camper van with some comforts to take out into the mountains and go camping. So that's been a lot of fun as well. Something that I'm getting a lot of enjoyment out of. And so between kind of starting up a family and taking my tests and enjoying the California outdoors, along with helping run AB Design Studio, that keeps me plenty busy.
Fantastic. Eric, if there's one resource that you could point our listeners to in terms of their success in their lives, do you have something that comes to mind?
I don't have one thing in particular. As a quick answer to that question, Josh and Clay take personal coaching every bit as seriously as business coaching, and I've been fortunate enough to have them point me in some pretty helpful directions. They recommended I take the Landmark Forum, which is a very powerful experience that gave me some tools for succeeding in life. They've enrolled me in a business group called Vistage, which I meet in once a month with other kind of key executives that are helping run other companies here in town. And we meet together and there's guest speakers that deliver very helpful and powerful messages. And then we were able to troubleshoot the ongoing issues that we're dealing with. That's been a major resource for me, both professionally and personally. So I would recommend both the Landmark Forum and the Vistage group for people to, yeah.
That is fantastic. And I also want to put out a plug there for the group that I run in my platform, Architect CEO, which is very similar to Vistage, except for the fact that it's made up primarily, almost exclusively of architects around the world that share information. Yeah. So if any of our listeners are looking for one of those peer groups that is very, very powerful, I highly recommend Vistage. There's Entrepreneurs Organization, Architect CEO, my platform as well. We have some great support, very, very valuable. So thanks for that, Eric. Appreciate both of those recommendations, Landmark and Vistage. And thank you for joining us today on Business of Architecture.
Thanks for having me.
And that is a wrap. Thank you for listening today. If you're looking for more time, freedom, impact, and income as an architect, get instant access to my free 4-part architect profit map by visiting freearchitectgift.com. The sponsor for today's show is ArchReach, the client relationship management tool built specifically for architects. If you want to systematize your marketing and business development, ArchReach will help you do it. Visit archreach.com to learn more. The views expressed on the show by my guests do not represent those of the host, and I make no representation, promise, guarantee, pledge, warranty, contract, bond, or commitment except to help you conquer the world.